So in this presentation, we will discuss the transcription in eukaryote. The initiation of transcription will be discussed in this presentation. So we know that transcription has three phases in eukaryotes: initiation, elongation and termination. We have initiation, elongation and termination. As usual in prokaryotes also, in bacteria also, we have these three phases. So in this part, we will discuss the transcription initiation in detail. So for that, the promoter site of the gene of a chromosome, as already we have seen, this consists of, usually suppose this is the +1 site, and there will be a tata box usually located at -25 position, and there will be another sequence called BRE sequence at around -35 in the upstream. And even in the upstream positions, you can see some other sequences like maybe proximal promoter elements, or there are some other regulatory sequences like enhancers. It may be enhancers, it may be activators, etc. These are the different other regulatory sequences. And not only the upstream sequences, we have certain downstream sequences also, like you can see a DPE sequence, usually at around 27 plus 27 away from the promoter site, and also there is one MTE or motif 10 element, usually around between 10 to 20 base pairs in the downstream position. So this is the promoter region within the eukaryotic transcription. So this part, this is the part which has to be transcribed. This is the part of the gene. So for that transcription, we have these entire sequences as the regulatory elements. So within this regulatory part, we can see the core promoter. We have the core promoter, which comprises the tata box, the BRE sequence, the DPE and the MTE element. And also an important thing which I forgot is the INR. INR is also another important promoter sequence seen in eukaryotic system. So this is the initiator element itself. So these are the promoter region, and apart from the core promoter, we have the regulatory sequences also. So these comprise the sequences in eukaryotic system. So into the system, now we will see the next part. That is the first element we discussed is the sequences, the promoter and regulatory sequences seen within the chromosome. And the second one we have to see for initiation is the transcription factors. Okay, so these are usually what we call the general transcription factors. And as we are discussing the mechanism in RNA polymerase II for the synthesis of mRNA, we will call them as the transcription factor 2 in general. And there are 6 such general transcription factors involved in the synthesis of mRNA molecule, and they are denoted as the TF2, D, A, B, F, E and H. So these are the 6 general transcription factors involved in the transcription initiation mechanism. Okay, and the third element is the RNA polymerase itself. RNA polymerase, as we know, this is a multi-subunit protein with a total of 12 subunits. 12 subunits are there, of which 10 subunits are comprising the core region, and the largest subunit is the RPV1, which is important in terms of initiation and elongation, since the carboxy terminal domain of the RPV1 is a crucial part, where when it is phosphorylated, which will go for elongation, and if it is non-phosphorylated or dephosphorylated state, it will be responsible for the initiation process. Right. So now we are moving into the mechanism of initiation process. So let's begin the mechanism of initiation. So this is the promoter region or the chromosome. We have the +1, and this is the -25 region, etc. So we have the -35 region, then other elements. So here will be the Tata box, and this is the BRE, and other elements are there. Right. So first, the first transcription factor which is interacting to the promoter sequence is the TF2D. So this protein is actually which comprises a number of factors internally, which consists an important sequence within it, or a DNA binding sequence called TBP. So this part of the TF2D is what we call TBP, or it's nothing but the Tata box binding protein. And along with the TBP, this TF2D also consists of certain TAF. That means the Tata binding protein association factors, or TBP association factors. And there are around 14 different TAFs reported so far. So all these TBP is responsible for the specific interaction of the protein to the Tata box. See, so what actually do is this promoter, this TF2D will come and interact with this Tata box, right? So this will happen for the first time when a gene is going to be transcribed. So this interaction of the TF2D to the promoter or to the Tata box initiate, or which is the first step for a consecutive number of steps, right? So the Tata box is occupied by the TF2D complex. Now there will be TAFs also, which is also associated along with this one. You can also see certain TAFs also bound over the sequences. You can see like there will be certain sequences bound over this one, like TAFs. Right. So the next factor which is attaching here is the TF2B, the most significant part. And sometimes usually TF2B also will come along with the TF2A. Also TF2A also will occupy here, right? TF2A. So this is the 2D and this is 2A. And now the next most significant element called the TF2B. So the TF2B also comes into place. So TF2B usually occupies a site covering the BRE region. So this is the 2B, right? And next we have the most important element, what we call the RNA polymerase. So the RNA polymerase enzyme will come. This is the RNA pole 2, and this molecule is coming into this complex in order to form the pre-initiation complex. So this RNA polymerase, the thing is that this enzyme alone cannot interact, or even it comes alone, it could not be stabilized. And for that, this RNA polymerase is usually occupied by another, or which is being complexed with another factor called the transcription factor 2F. So this is a complex of RNA pole 2 and TF2F. So this complex now recruited into this site. So this complex will occupy a site like this. So this is the RNA pole 2. So this RNA pole 2 is occupied, and definitely there will be our 2F complex. 2F also will be there along with the RNA pole 2. Right. So now the mechanism is moving to the final stages of initiation, and finally what comes is this binding of RNA pole. Now the complex is like there is a TBP or the TF2D, then TF2B, then pole F complex. This is the complex now. And into this multi-subunit complex, now the next element called TF2E will be recruited. So the TF2E will be recruited into this site. So there will be TF2E, and TF2E binding helps the system to recruit the most significant transcription factor called TF2H. So as we already know that TF2H is a multi-subunit factor, and moreover this is having some enzymatic activity. And which has helicase activity, helicase plus ATPase plus kinase activity. So all these activities are residing within this TF2H, and moreover it is a multi-subunit, consists of around 12 different subunits within it. So this protein will be binding over this one. So there are TF2H also recruited to this complex. So now this complex is what we call the pre-initiation complex or the closed complex. So once the closed complex is formed, the system will begin transcription initiation. So this will be the status at the promoter site. So we have the entire complex. So this is what we call the pre-initiation complex or closed complex. So now it is moving into the next stage of initiation, what we call the promoter melting. You can say this is the second stage of initiation. So the first stage was like the assembly of transcription factors plus the polymerase enzyme. So that was the first part that already we discussed to form the pre-initiation complex or the closed complex. So once that is successfully done, we have the next round called the promoter melting. So promoter melting is nothing but there will be opening of the DNA duplex at a distance of around 15 to 18 nucleotides covering the +1 site. Suppose this is the +1 site in the chromosome, and after promoter melting it will appear like this. That means suppose this is the +1 site, and all the polymer, the transcription factors and the polymerase enzyme is occupying over there, and there is an opening of around 18 nucleotides will be unbound, and this unbounding or this activity is mediated by the helicase activity of TF2H. So the TF2H causes the unwinding. So the entire complex is involved for the reaction, but specifically the TF2H will be doing the helicase activity. So once the system is open, now it is ready for the next mechanism. So the third stage will be like nucleotide addition. You can see the nucleotides are going to be added. So as already we know that the RNA polymerase is a unique enzyme which doesn't require any primer. So even without a primer, the polymerase can add the nucleotide. So suppose here we have different nucleotides. Okay, these are the nucleotides I'm denoting all these are the nucleotides. So these nucleotides are coming into this one. So the first nucleotide will be added over here. So this is the first nucleotide. So once the first nucleotide is added, the next round of elongation or the next round of addition will continue by the enzyme. So there will be addition of nucleotides complementary to the DNA sequences complementary to the template DNA. So this will continue up to this part. You can see in the image up to this part where the opening has been done. This will continue up to this part, right? So once that is done, this enzyme will try to move in this direction, but this movement initially will not be successful. And when this movement is not successful, what will happen is this molecule, this newly synthesized RNA molecule, will be dissociated. If the enzyme cannot successfully move and during the force created for the movement, this molecule, this newly synthesized RNA molecule, will be dissociated. And this mechanism is what we call the fourth stage, that or is the internal stage, what we call abortive initiation. Abortive initiation. Right. So after many such rounds of abortive initiation, the system is going for the next a successful initiation and followed by elongation. Right. So this will be the stage in the initiation part. So the abortive initiation will continue for a number of cycles, and there will be dissociation of the premature mRNA or some non-functional mRNA molecule. And after certain rounds, what happens is there is a reaction, what we call phosphorylation of the carboxy terminal domain of the RNA polymerase enzyme. Actually, this RNA polymerase enzyme's largest subunit, what already we said, is the RPB1. So this RPB1 has a carboxy terminal domain. So this is the CTD, carboxy terminal domain of the RPB1. So this carboxy terminal domain, as the mechanism begins or in the initiation phase, this will be in the non-phosphorylated or dephosphorylated state. So if the system has to move or if the system has to propagate further as elongation, this has to be phosphorylated. So this will be phosphorylated heavily. There will be heavy phosphorylation reaction of the carboxyl terminal domain, and this reaction is also catalyzed by the TF2H, which has a kinase active, and also there will be additional kinase enzymes also involved in this particular reaction. Right, so hope you understood this one. So there is phosphorylation of the carboxyl terminal domain of the RNA polymerase enzyme, typically the largest subunit called the RPB1. Right, so once this is done, what happens is this enzyme will dissociate, or this enzyme will lose the contact with these transcription factors, right? And this causes the enzyme to move away from the promoter site. So you can see that. So suppose maybe this was the image. Suppose this is the +1 site, and after the phosphorylation of the carboxyl terminal domain, what is like the polymerase will move a distance from the +1 site. So all the transcription factors will be left in the promoter region. These are the general transcription factors, and this is the polymerase enzyme. So this polymerase enzyme is moving in this direction, right? So this is the +1 site. Fine. So definitely the transcription bubble also will move in such a way as the polymerase move. Fine. So there will be the newly synthesized mRNA. So there was a synthesis in this part of the from the +1 site, the RNA has been synthesized, and this newly synthesized RNA will be leaving this complex through an exit point, and that will be what hanging out of this complex as like this. So this is the mRNA molecule which is newly synthesized, or the pre-mRNA molecule, right? So this is what we call the beginning of elongation process. So this will continue until certain point what we call the termination site. In fact, there is no such termination specific site, but still there are certain sequences. So until then, this will continue synthesizing like this. So there will be a moment, some comparatively faster moment, around 50 nucleotides will be added per second to this complex for the movement.